What's up, guys, and welcome to The Fat Loss Journey, or how my client Warren lost 20 pounds in 90 days without any food restrictions. Now, who is this presentation for? If you are a busy professional working as a software developer engineer, working in law and medicine, or as an executive leading a team or a business, and even if you are a parent, there will be a lot of very useful information in here for you. If you want to lose body fat and get that lean and athletic look, then giving this a listen is worth your time. If you want to create more robust health and improve your energy for the rest of your life outside of the gym or the kitchen, there's a lot of stuff in here for you. And if you have little to no additional time to add to your schedule, in fact, if getting some extra time back would be nice, then I've got some stuff in here for you. But specifically, if you have tried diets and workout plans in the past that either didn't work or maybe did work but then reversed as you left that program behind because its approaches were pretty unsustainable and now you're just left right where you started, if not worse, then this presentation will have a lot of good stuff for you. So what is in store? By the end, you'll know how to burn 20 pounds of fat or more in 90 days and how to keep it off for the long run. You'll learn how to create an efficient workout plan that gets you energized and builds physical capability, right? So if form follows function, we're going to use many different movements and different patterns to train you into a lean, athletic, and highly capable body. You're going to learn with that how to create an effective nutritional plan that not only saves you time, but helps fuel you for your goals in the rest of your life. And of course, you will learn about quite a few of the common mistakes that my clients have run into, that the internet has plenty of floating around out there, and that some I have even run into and suffered through myself, hopefully so that you do not have to. Now, who am I and why should you bother with the rest of this presentation? Well, my name is Connor Kelly. I have over 7 years of professional coaching, starting from group exercise, moving on to personal training, and then diving deeper into the one-on-one remote coaching with professionals that I offer now at a custom and tailor-made level. In terms of exercise modalities, I consider myself a movement practitioner, an opener of doors, if you will. I used to be an Ido Portal method student, so if that name rings a bell, then you've probably seen some of his stuff across the internet. You have an idea of what that means. If not, then there is a lot of movement posts talking about my ideology and my methods that I like to employ for myself and for my clients. I'm also an ex-chronic overexerciser as well as yo-yo dieter. So overtraining to make up for bad diets that didn't work, or I would see some results on the diets only to crash and burn because of their highly restrictive nature, cutting out a lot of my favorite foods or just way too many calories, and then rebounding after that diet right back to where I started, except way more burnt out, fatigued, and mentally exhausted. And these are the results of exactly that process of 3 hours or more training 6 to 7 days a week while bouncing around from yo-yo diet to yo-yo diet. And having solved those problems, keeping all my favorite foods, ice cream, cookies, and steaks included in my diet while training significantly less, only 4 to 6 days a week for about 60 to 90 minutes per session these days. I have much more sustainable results, much better results, in fact, and am now living and coasting sometimes at exactly the place that I want to be. And transferring that to our case study for today, Warren and his wins. Starting with me at about 222 pounds, around about there. He may have been a little heavier at the start. Getting down to 189 and dropping his first 20 within 90 days of us getting him started on his first program. Then kind of coasting through the holidays before New Year's coming around and kicking off another 10 pounds after that. Getting to the lightest I think he's been since he said he was in high school. So what is the secret behind my success, behind Warren's success, and behind the success of all my other clients? The secret is bullshit. Because there is none. There's only experience and knowledge and how we implement those things. So, starting from a place of chronic yo-yo dieting, restrictive eating, and diet misconceptions and moralizations, thinking of certain foods as good or bad and being a bad person for eating them, as well as chronically overtraining, eventually led to a place of eating all my favorite foods, creating balanced and energizing workouts most of the time at least. There's always time to kick your ass in the gym after all. Having time saving meals and educated dining out so there can still at least be some semblance of a social or a professional life while going through a sustainable diet plan, and understanding the science backed fat loss and muscle gain practices. So, before we get into all those details of how that works and how you can implement this philosophy into your next nutritional and exercise approach, I have a challenge for you. If you cannot stick with a program or a diet at your busiest or for the long term, then what good is it, and how much do you think it's actually going to serve you? All right, now getting into Warren's journey, here is some context about where he and I started together. He has a wife and kids. He's a full-time lead developer at a FANG company with over 20 pounds of fat to lose. He had tried some light dieting in the past, but nothing was really effective, specifically Noom. Some of you have probably heard about that and even tried that. Didn't really work for him, and if it's not working for you, maybe this will help you understand a bit more of why. He wanted to learn calisthenics and handstands, which are body weight dependent skills. So he wanted to get his first chin-ups since he was in high school. He wanted to get dips, and he wanted to develop just general body weight movement capabilities. He hasn't consistently worked out in over 5 years. He had tried bouts of exercising and committing to some sort of routine while he had kids, but nothing really stuck as a result of, kids and just work being as crazy as it was. So he needed a different method that could fit for him. And he felt like he didn't have any time to train or change his health and fitness as a result, right? If you try some things while life is busy and it fails, it's very easy to come to the conclusion that, like, okay, right now it's just not for me, when in actuality, well, it probably is going to fit for you. It's just a matter of figuring out how and having someone else in your corner to coach you up to that point and to give you the resources you need at every step of the journey, so you don't have to stop moving forward in order to do your own research and become your own coach or become your own programmer and nutritionist, right? Having someone do that work for you makes it a lot easier to execute, regardless of the children, the career, and the relationships that you need to maintain or improve on. So, getting to that point, we introduced to Warren the S3 protocol. And what that is a holistic lifestyle approach in which we start with an audit, looking at 3 key levers and the context of those levers in his life. Those 3 levers, our 3 S's, are strength, support, and sustainability. The movement side of his approach, the nutrition side of his approach, and then the kind of umbrella of how well he recovers and just manages the rest of his life to improve his health and help him reach his goals. Now, getting to the movement aspect of his program. When creating the movement modalities and portion of his program, we wanted to look at what are the things that you want to do every day and where do you want those things to take you. What are your actual goals with your physical practice? And also, what are some of the internal sensations we want to cultivate along the way? Internal sensations and goals being things like a sense of enjoyment, feeling competent, and feeling a sense of resilience and toughness, like you can actually, take quite a bit of work and overcome it, but it being at the right level to make sure that you actually feel competent and capable of improving over time. So having a dialed in and progressive approach that met him every step of the way where he's at, but always encourages him to push and improve without ever feeling like, he's totally worthless and just getting his ass kicked. Having it dialed in just right will make sure that you're improving and at a pace that actually feels good and encourages you to do the practice. And the external goals, right? Where do you want those movements to take you in terms of your actual body and its capabilities? So for Warren, we wanted to improve his physique and aesthetics, basically just building a decent bit of muscle without getting crazy bulky or anything like that while burning fat. So just having that lean, athletic, aesthetic kind of appeal, as well as developing skills, things like getting his first handstand, getting him chin-ups, working on his mobility in general. Him and I didn't approach the splits too much, but that is something I take some of my clients through, as well as dips, push-ups, squats, a lot of the foundations of building strength and having a calisthenics practice that you can kind of take with you wherever you go because you're just moving your body. Improving his mobility and his pain-free daily life as a result of his high intensity and demanding programming job, right? Spending 60 plus hours a week at the desk at a mouse and keyboard really takes a toll on the body, and incorporating that into a program to help him feel better and just live a healthier life was really, really important to him. Other external goals can include all aspects of athleticism, so things like speed, coordination, and general kind of bounciness, if you will, of the body is something that is very, I think, beneficial to train, and we definitely approach it with him a little bit in his program, aside from the primary foundations laid at the top. Now, ordering his movement protocols, we get to pimping. The precision movement protocols that we used to get Warren where he wanted to go. At the top, or foundation at the base, rather, of his pyramid is strength and skill training. So building lean muscle and a healthy athletic body is the primary engine of fat loss next to the nutrition, but we'll get to that later. Actually increasing the amount of muscle tissue on your body increases your metabolic rate, increases the engine that we use to burn fat. And also just generally being a badass and learning new exciting skills that really motivate and are intrinsically exciting to learn and practice for their own sake, just because they're so fun, they're so new, and they're so confidence building, right? There's nothing like doing something new that you've never done with your body and mastering a new skill to really motivate you to continue moving your body. And being at the base, this is, of course, the biggest bang for buck in terms of time as well. Getting some really solid strength work can at times be done in only 15 to 20 minutes. Do not need hours of this to see really solid results from your program. And so we have this as our first step of the foundation. Right next to that, a very close second is NEAT, daily activity or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. What does that mean? Just the general things you do outside of working out to be active. Walking here is easily king. It is super low fatiguing and usually provides people energy, but this can also include things like hiking, hanging out with friends, playing with the kids, or whatever it may be. Warren, I believe, had a treadmill at his desk, but traded that for a Swiss or aerobic ball and kind of just bounced throughout the day while he was at the desk when he couldn't get in walks, or us being out in Colorado when it was snowy and icy outside. Bouncing and walking at the desk were how he got his daily activity when he had to really commit to the office.
This is also the easiest way to burn excess calories, especially after having already implemented strength and skill-based training. Now, going on to the third pillar of the foundations that I provide for my clientele and that we use for Warren, and that is building mobility. Why put such a high focus on mobility, even above things like cardio? Because it improves the quality of movement and the quality of life. A big reason, after all, why anyone would go on a fat loss diet in the first place is to actually feel better in their own body, right? To just have a more positive and enjoyable sensation going about their day-to-day, doing whatever activities they want to do in their own bodies. Mobility goes hand in hand with that, particularly for developers who develop very similar overuse patterns in their body. Shoulders hunching forward, necks rounding down and forward, getting tight forearms and wrists through the fingertips from all the keyboard work, all the desk work. You know, all the typical stuff, right? Forward head posture, or what's typically called upper body syndrome or upper cross syndrome. And so building mobility is one of the key levers we can use to just improve quality of life, feeling better, and also feeling better while we do our non-exercise activities, playing with kids, playing outside, playing with friends, whatever it is. And of course, directly helps our strength and skill-based training as well. Now, the cherry on top, the final thing to implement would be some sort of dedicated amount of cardio. Typically, this is always very easy, very low effort, just a matter of putting in the steps, putting in the time. For those of you who like to track your steps and like metrics, getting above 10,000 steps a day using some sort of step tracker is the easiest way to maintain. You keep a baseline of neat as well as low impact or low fatigue cardio. If you want dedicated cardio, things like swimming, biking, running, hiking, whatever it may be, it's okay to add it in, but just know that it should be at a lower intensity and typically, as a result, for a little bit longer than usual. So rather than going hard and fast with it, which can build up joint strain, but more importantly, build up nervous system and metabolic fatigue, meaning you're more tired more often, and your strength and skill-based training suffers as a result. Well, all of your other training suffers as a result of increased intensity in the cardio. It'll just lead to burnout even quicker. So, as you go farther along in your fat loss journey, using cardio that's easier and easier, replacing it more and more with just general steps and activity, but keeping in things like light jogging, biking, whatever it may be, at a lower intensity. And the primary lever, again, that we should be using over things like adding extra cardio would instead be to manipulate your diet or your nutrition. The biggest keys here that we implemented for Warren to help him see success was first and foremost figuring out how to save him time on his nutrition prep, discovering his right protein formula that fit his goals in his life. How much protein did he have to intake every day? What are the relationships between palatability and satiety, as well as getting a general understanding of calorie budgeting. Now, going over the big time savers, first was building an education on how to order takeout and eat at restaurants, right? So still being able to participate with the family, with friends, and with coworkers, while making decisions that felt good for him and felt like they matched his goals. And if he wanted to have some fun and kind of splurge from time to time, relying on his calorie budgeting on the macro scale, on the week-long scale, so that he could have fun on occasion when going out, having those extra drinks and maybe having an extra side or two as well. Building grocery shopping guides so that when he was shopping for food, he didn't have to think about it. It was already there, prepared, ready to go. And if he needed to make a change or two for the sake of himself or his family, he could make it really quick. And then, at the snap of a finger, he was ready to rock and get in and get out really fast with his groceries. Understanding bulk, meal, prioritization, and recipes for cooking on multiple days on end. If you are caring for a family, or even if you're just living, the bachelor life or a bachelorette life, but you have very limited time and you want to maximize your time return while losing fat, cooking in bulk, preparing meals in bulk is absolutely the way to go. Having leftovers, having multiple meals as a result of all your work in the kitchen should be a must. Leveraging delivery services like Instacart, Grubhub, Whole Foods Delivery, others if you know about them, to get food just delivered directly to your door. If your time is worth anything to you, save time on groceries, get your groceries delivered, and just use that time to, better leverage the rest of your work or the other things that you enjoy in life. If you are pretty passionate about where your food is sourced and you want to contribute more to local food production, like local farms, local cattle, local poultry, dairy, whatever it may be, you can look at a CPA that's near you as well. There are multiple CPA directories, and if you just punch in your address, your zip code, it'll show multiple different sources that you can find, farms and other subscription services to providers near you that produce the food near you as well. So worth looking into if that's something that you're pretty passionate about. But if your time is drastically worth more than your effort spent in the kitchen, it is definitely worth your time to look into pre-cooked meal services. So like the delivery services that get food from the grocery store straight to your door, you can skip the groceries and the meal prep altogether by ordering very specific curated meals that are pre-cooked. It'll cost a little bit more, of course, but you can get things that are more tailored to your macros and to your goals that you just store in the fridge or the freezer, pop out, heat up, and is ready to rock. it'll be more easily prepared so that you can more easily actually hit your goals. Now, getting to the protein formula.
How much protein should you be aiming for daily?
If your goals, again, are to burn fat while building muscle or maintaining the muscle that you've already spent so much time building, if you've been working on your own, you should be aiming for about 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight on average. And this is daily, or 2 grams per kilo. For example, if you're a 200-pound person, you should be eating a minimum of 140 grams, but make it easy. Just aim for 200 grams. It'll ensure that the results of your efforts in the gym show up and that you are maximizing your nutritional balance for fat loss, meaning that you will be satiated, you will be well recovered from exercise, you will have mental clarity and hormonal balanced regulation from a balanced diet. Any less than this, and you are sure to be burning quite a bit more muscle than you potentially would like while burning fat. Any more than this, and experts seem to say that there's not much benefit actually. Eating more than a gram per pound not only doesn't really assist in the building of muscle, but it also can take away from your other fuel sources, so essential fats, as well as carbs, which not only help you recover from training, but really help you give you a boost in the gym and or wherever it is you're exercising from as pre-workout, right? So going above 1 gram per pound protein can take away a little bit from other things while not really giving you much benefit, and of course also being a little extra expensive as well. Now, if you're thinking, well, Connor, I weigh 200 pounds, but I'm like 20+% body fat, even if that's the case, eating 200 grams will ensure that, again, you see those good results and lose body fat more effectively. A big part of why, again, is getting into that satiety concept, being full and feeling quite satiated from the protein consumption itself. You can start on the lower end and ramp up if you're unused to eating this much meat or protein supplements, but if you enjoy consuming protein, then just go right to it. 1 gram per pound will serve you very well. Now, what is palatability and how does it compare with satiety? They have an inverse correlation because typically what is palatable is tasty, it's decadent, it's delicious. And it tends to be less satiating as a result. Perfect examples being potato chips, cookies, ice cream, other baked goods, and for some even bread. Well, likely for most bread, especially if it's white bread. Basically, if there's a food whose serving size that you wish were all of it, it is a hyper palatable food. And not only doesn't really leave you feeling full, but as you are probably well aware, makes you want quite a bit more of it. No one eats just half a bag of potato chips unless, I don't know, they're like psychotic and probably not listening to this presentation. So, these foods, they can have a place in your diet in a fat loss phase, especially if they're things that you quite enjoy. Myself, I do. Even on my steepest cuts, I keep ice cream in, and for Warren, we kept in a few of his favorites as well, those being cookies, some of the treats with his kids, and on occasion some drinks, but that changed over time. However, they need to be used with caution, right? Understanding when you eat them and why you eat them will have a greater impact on how they affect your physique, your mentality, your energy levels, and of course, your fat loss progress. Typically, safe rule of thumb, don't start the day with baked goods, sweets, or treats. It'll just leave you craving more and probably also hinder your productivity and your drive to be successful through the rest of the day. Start on a high note, eating clean, healthy foods, and save the snacks if you can manage them for the end of the day. Now, what is satiety? Basically just means being full or not hungry. Some special exceptions to keep in mind, though, is if you are not hitting your protein targets but you are training very hard, or if you're not eating enough essential fats or not getting enough salt in your diet, you can still be very, very cravey even after a full meal because of the lack of these key micro and macronutrients. So make sure you salt to taste, at least for the most part. Make sure you're hitting a minimum of 40 grams of fat upwards of 60 to 80 depending on how big you are, and make sure you're hitting your 1 gram per pound of body weight protein, and those exceptions will probably be covered. So what are some common high satiety foods that I highly recommend leveraging for your fat loss and muscle building goals? Foods that I use, foods that Warren used as well. At the top of the list, of course, is meat, getting good sources of protein, particularly grilled. Why? Because it doesn't really require any oil or added fats to make it delicious. A little salt, a little dry seasoning, and just the heat and the char from the grill makes it incredibly delicious. Be careful though, right? You don't want to overeat your calories for delicious meats. But nothing makes chicken breast and bland cuts of, beef roast or beef eye of beef, or like even sirloin steaks more delicious and palatable, things that you normally wouldn't be craving, than just grilling it with some salt and pepper. Phenomenal. But like I said, of course, be careful with that, right? If you down an entire ribeye, there's like 2,000 calories and 100 grams of fat down the tank. So just be mindful of what you're grilling. Potatoes, incredibly satiating, lots of fiber, so long, of course, as you prepare them with quite a bit less oil than is typical, right? So fries, potato chips, probably worth avoiding if you're trying to burn fat. But things like roasted potatoes, baked potatoes, or boiled and mashed potatoes, again, minus the cream and minus the dairy. For me, mashed sweet potatoes just with some seasoning, phenomenal. And also highly satiating. High protein, low fat yogurt, especially with fruits, is a great pre-workout and start to the day. Whether it's a dairy or non-dairy option, just looking for some with at least 10 grams, upwards of 15 to 20 grams of protein per serving, and 2% or less fat if you're really steep into the cut and you really want to just leverage these high protein sources while killing your hunger and your cravings. Vegetables, pretty obvious. Eat the rainbow, prepared in any way that fits your lifestyle, so long, of course, as the oils used to prepare your vegetables are used mindfully. Most fruits, very effective on any fat loss program. People who talk about fruits being the killer of any gains, well, when's the last time you saw anybody get overweight or stay overweight because of eating fruit? Likely never, because it's also bullshit. The best options here are berries, melons, apples, and kiwis. Less useful options while really trying to burn fat are bananas, oranges, mangoes, pineapples, things that typically leave you craving quite a bit more and are much higher in sugar content. But Connor, you just said fruits are super good, no one gets fat off fruits. Yes, they are, but as you get more and more serious, farther along in your fat loss phase, it becomes worthwhile just to keep in mind what foods make you crave food and eating in general. Things like mangoes, especially for me, I will eat one mango and just want another mango or something salty or something sweeter to go with it. And it just cycles into the desire to eat. Whereas eating the rest, berries, melons, apples, etc., they're very sweet, they're very delicious, but they're also very filling and satiating in their own right because of the reason why no one gets fat off fruit, the fiber. So all of these are fair game, but if you notice that your cravings increase as a result of eating fruit, it's probably worth switching whatever you're eating for something with higher fiber, like berries being the safest example. Whole grains, very satiating, so long as they're prepared with minimal fat. Again, this is on a case-by-case basis. If you are someone who, with one slice of bread, you can all but eat half a loaf or the entire loaf, okay, use grains with a little more caution. For me, rice was something I used quite a bit less during my cuts. Rice is very useful, very good, but I tend to just go back for serving after serving because I love rice. It's what I've grown up on. So that's more of a special meal, every other week or so, rather than something I keep in on the regular. But again, that's because I don't have a particularly need. I don't need rice right in my diet to feel satisfied and happy with what I'm eating, so it can kind of go on the back burner. This is on a person-to-person basis. So, recapping: salt to taste, cook with healthy oils. So, typically avoiding things like just general vegetable oil or typical peanut oils, things that go rancid at very low temperatures or have already oxidized because of their production methods or how they're stored. So, your olive oils, your coconut oils, your avocado oils, your sunflower, safflower oils, these are all typically a little bit better options. If you are cooking quite a bit with oils, try measuring them out to see how much you're actually using and how many calories is actually in the preparation method in itself, right? Eating vegetables, very filling, hardly any calories, highly recommended. Making stir fries every day or deep frying your vegetables every day, quite a bit less so, right? There's a lot more calories that comes in with the frying. Nut butter is included in that category. Nuts and nut butters can be very useful to keep in the diet, especially if you really enjoy the flavor of them. But if you can't help but overeat it, right? If one spoonful leads to 5 spoonfuls, try measuring out, seeing how many calories are actually in the nut butters, and then modifying your decision making process from there.
Okay, let's get to more of a macro look and take a look at your weekly plan versus your daily plan and how they can relate to each other. It's always good to take one day during the week, whether that be a Friday or a Sunday or whatever it may be, where you like to look ahead to your next week, to plan your general approach to your caloric intake, your protein intake, which honestly shouldn't really be changing that much, and planning for any obstacles that you see ahead, right? So if you see at the end of the week, say that you have a birthday party or a work dinner to go to, you can plan throughout the week leading up to it such that you have maybe a few less calories throughout the week so that when you get to your social activity, you can have a little more leeway and a little more freedom during that time to not feel as guilty while going out, and you can still kind of participate while hopefully still making healthy decisions, not having to make super restricted decisions. Looking out at a weekly plan also allows you to just observe your habits guilt-free, right? If you notice that you're snacking at the desk, if you're still, while starting a fat loss phase, drinking a fair few of your calories or spiking your blood sugar with certain snacks, some protein bars or meal replacement bars can kind of spike your blood sugar and wreck your energy in the middle of the day. You won't feel so bad and feel like you have to, give yourself whiplash by making drastic changes in the very next day. You can make up for small amounts of mistakes, right? Think of the 80-20 rule. You can make up for 20% of a week's worth of mistakes throughout the rest of that 80% of your week. Give yourself the window to make gradual changes in implementation and don't make any, breakneck decisions. Resist the urge to form reaction-based eating habits. If you notice you're overeating on certain days or certain foods, take that into stock the next time you go shopping or the next time you consider going out to get certain types of food and putting those decisions in their proper context. Now, what is that context and how do we form a general weekly plan? Let's talk a little bit about calorie science. So, total daily energy expenditure, or I'll just call it total expenditure from here on out, is basically just how much energy you burn in a day. What that equation looks like is your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, plus your physical activity, plus the thermic effect of food. Basal metabolic rate being what it costs just for your body to function at baseline. Then adding on top of that your physical activity, and that is the combination of dedicated exercise, ideally strength and resistance training, plus your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That being the walking, the hiking, the playing, all the, the fidgeting, the getting up and down from the desk, all the things that you might count on like a step tracker or an activity tracker separate from your dedicated workouts. Then there's finally the thermic effect of food. This is the smallest contributor to your daily expenditure, but it still counts for something. And the more protein that's in your diet, like we talked about earlier, the higher that thermic effect of food will be because of how costly it is for your body to digest protein well. Costly being a good thing, right? It takes a fair bit more energy for your body to extract the nutrients it needs from protein. and quite a bit less energy on the other side to mostly digest fats. Fats are highly efficient going in your mouth and right into your bloodstream. So the more complex carbohydrate and the more protein you have, the higher your thermic effect of food will be. So, looking at the balance of the scales, what is a caloric surplus? Basically just the calories that you consume being greater than your total energy expenditure. A deficit, on the other hand, is the calories you intake being less than your total expenditure, leading to weight loss and, if you have enough protein in strength training, ideally fat loss, not losing too much muscle. And then at the tail end of your deficit, you will run into maintenance, maintaining a balance between what you eat and what you expend. These maintenance phases should last at least the length of your cutting phase or your weight loss phase, or they should last even longer until you feel ready to make a change, right? Whether you want to go into another cut to lose even more fat, or if you feel pretty satisfied with that and you want to start to build some muscle and a little bit of size, then you can go into a surplus. A healthy weight loss goal for a single phase would be between 8 and 12%. Losing much more than 12% body weight in a single phase starts to push the boundaries of what is really healthily possible for most people. Because of the rate of fat loss that will be occurring, if it's more than 12% in a single phase, it will probably be pretty unsustainable and could potentially lead to burnout and to rebounding. So, for example, if you're starting at 200 pounds, getting down to 180 pounds, right, losing 1% body weight per week for 10 weeks, then you would maintain for about another 10 weeks at around 184 pounds. So you get to consume a little more food, you come back out of the deepest part of your cut, and you maintain at a pretty comfortable spot before making another decision from there. Talking about this fat loss rate, why do we limit it in the first place? Well, once you figure out your initial maintenance before you start a weight loss program, from there, you then remove something pretty small, actually, like only 200 to 300 calories a day. That can be just by, removing the sweeteners from your coffee, removing some of the cream from your coffee, or replacing, creamer with whole milk or whole milk with skim milk or something like that, switching to black coffee. It can be switching from soda to diet soda. Small things like that can really easily create this deficit without having to change much else of your lifestyle. But hopefully, you're also creating that deficit by increasing your activity, right? More NEAT, more working out will help to greater spur this weight loss process. Our maximum rate is 1% body weight per week being lost, right? So if you weigh that 200 pounds, you shouldn't be losing much more than 202 pounds per week at all. It's going to stay in that 1 to 2 pound window per week. There are some possible exceptions for this for beginners, particularly highly overweight beginners, right? If you are, under 6 foot and above 250 pounds, it can be pretty comfortable to lose more than 1% body weight per week at the start, especially given how drastic small changes can be in your lifestyle, right? Parking farther from buildings and walking more, and then replacing regular soda with diet soda, like I said, can lead to a greater than 1% body weight loss per week, but it should not be maintained at that really high pace. Aiming for 1% or slightly less is going to be very sustainable and very, comfortable to maintain for 10 to 12 weeks. If you find that your scale is plateauing, right, whether you weigh in once a week or, twice a week, whatever it may be, if you notice a plateau, do not change anything for at least one upwards of 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, if the scale stays where it's at, that means you're truly at a place of stagnancy. Then you can drop another 200 calories a day or per day. Your body weight or the scale can stagnate because of many things that aren't just lack of fat loss, primarily that being retention of body water. So, as you go through this process, you may notice that as a result of decreasing calories, you're a little bit more thirsty or a little bit more hungry, so you can grab a few more diet sodas or diet drinks to kind of curb your willingness to snack throughout the day. As a result, you might end up retaining a bit of body water, even though you're actually still burning fat, and so it can cause the scale to stagnate. So don't make any drastic changes leading to burnout and way too steep of a fat loss curve, just because there might be some extra body water retention, and you should give yourself that extra window to see when the body kind of equilibrates over the course of 1 to 2 weeks before you make a change. Once you remove that 200 calories per day, after you determine that you reached an actual plateau, repeat the process. If you are losing weight, stay the course. If you plateau for 1 to 2 weeks before making another change. Rounding out the progressively difficult nature of weight loss and fat loss phases is returning to our movement side of things and talking about progressive overload. How should you actually be making your workouts harder? Well, starting with the baseline of a strength and skill-based training program for the reasons we talked about earlier, building and retaining muscle, improving your overall energy. Even though it can be pretty tiring at first, it pays its dividends in the long run. Progressively overloading your workouts basically just means making them gradually harder week to week over the course of a 4 to 8 week period. When you feel like you're hitting a wall or can no longer make your workouts more difficult or can't even repeat your workouts, that's a perfect time to take a week of deload and then resetting your 4 to 8 week strength training cycle. So what's a deload? Basically, you just take your intensity or the total weight, the numbers you're actually using, as well as your volume, the sets and repetitions, the total amount of actual work and movements you're doing, and basically cutting them in half. So if you're doing 50 push-ups a workout and then 50 squats a workout, you can cut the weight of your squats in half and make the push-ups a little bit easier and also do half the reps. And that's a great recipe for deloading and making sure you're fully rested after that week to come back even stronger and harder than you were before. From there, do another 48 weeks of progressively more difficult workouts, starting on let's just say week 9, starting your second cycle at the lower end of your difficulty spectrum, so that 4 to 8 weeks after that, you're at the higher end of the cycle again. You don't just want to go from a deload into another maximally difficult week, right? So if week 1 is difficulty 5 out of 10, week 9 should be difficulty 5, maybe 6 out of 10. Whereas, week 8 on both periods, week 8 and week 16, those should be difficulty 9 or 10 out of 10, that kind of thing. And when it comes to making things more difficult, basically just by doing a single more rep per set on your exercises, doing another set total. So if you're doing 3 sets of 10, you can try 3 sets of 11 or 4 sets of 10. 4 sets of 10 being quite a bit more fatiguing. You can try shortening your rest to make it more difficult, or using slightly heavier weights, adding 2.5 pounds to each side, or doing a slightly more difficult variation. Don't do too much too soon, and probably don't change more than one of these variables at a time. It's a great recipe for burnout, injury, and plateauing. So take your time, think about progress over that 2-month period, and then how much progress you'll be making if you avoid plateaus by going too fast too soon over the next year or two. It'll be almost constantly going up so long as you take your time and make things more difficult intelligently. Wrapping things up, getting to recovery and everything else. What are some recovery tenets that will serve you well, that have served Warren well in your fat loss journey? Getting high quality sleep, especially if you are someone who really cares about your work and your productivity and being highly functional and having very clear and cogent decision-making capabilities, getting 7 to 9 hours per sleep per night will pay its dividends. It is an unavoidable aspect of our physiology. If you're getting less than 7 hours of sleep a night, you are depriving yourself of sleep, and you are making hastier decisions, more rash decisions, and are being more reactive to the world around you. That is just how humans work. aiming for 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, ideally getting to bed before 11 p.m. But whatever time you get to bed, really making sure it is in a cold, dark, pitch black room. Buying blackout curtains once so that you can drastically improve your sleep and your results in and outside of the gym. It is one purchase that will serve you for a long time. Eating enough protein, 1 gram per pound, like we talked about. Bringing some awareness to your breath, doing some sort of breathing practice, or just taking a second to check in throughout the day and to de-stress yourself, to kind of calm down. Remember that you're just, we're all bodies out here doing our best. So reconnecting to our bodies, taking deep breaths, and releasing some stress throughout the day so we can go back to doing whatever it is we want to do and accomplish with renewed focus and renewed energy. And in combination with that, to decrease stress, is spending time with people who support you on this journey. Nothing is going to hamstring you like a bunch of friends or coworkers whose habits are contrary to your goals, right? If all of your friends just want to go out and drink and eat every day, it's going to be pretty hard to stick to a successful weight loss program. So find yourself a support network, even if that's just 1 or 2 people who are in your corner. The everything else side of stuff, keeping life smooth and oily, using those meal delivery services like we talked about, cooking meals in bulk if you are in the kitchen, 4 to 5 meals worth at a time. Nothing's going to hamstring your efforts of saving time while having healthy meals prepared if you have to do it every single night. It's just not sustainable. Unless you're a bachelor with lots of money and time, in which case, go for it. Drinking half your body weight in ounces of water per day will ensure that you're hydrated. This can decrease a little bit towards the end of your cut, especially if you want to start to see the results of that fat loss. Staying a little bit drier will show even more in your results, right? You'll see the changes even more in your body because you'll be retaining less water, and not only will the scale be going down, but the fat will of course be going down at an ideal pace. This excludes alcohol and caffeine, as those tend to be dehydrating factors. So drinking booze, drinking lots of coffee or caffeinated beverages, discount those from your half body weight in ounces of water per day. Everything else though, diet drinks, sodas, juices, whatever it may be, all fair game. Tell your friends, build a support network, let the people in your life know what journey you're going through, and ask for help. Make sure it's known that when you make a decision, you're making it from this place for yourself, and you're not just rejecting all of the kind of habits that you and your friends have formed together and coming off as someone who's like maybe judging them or whatever it may be, right? Eliminate the narratives from people's minds by making it explicit and telling them what you're going through and maybe even why you want to do it. Then at the end of your weeks, scheduling and planning ahead, taking every Sunday to look at the obstacles and look at the events coming up in your life so that you can plan accordingly, workout-wise and nutrition-wise. So, from top to bottom, looking at our action steps, how do we go about a successful, sustainable weight loss program? First step is determining your goals, your performance goals, and your weight loss and physique goals. Or what do you want to do and how do you want to do it? From there, figure out your maintenance calories, roughly how much food are you eating to be the weight that you're at. You can use that. You can do that manually by just taking pictures or tracking in a journal, or you can use a calorie tracking app, which I recommend. It's very highly accurate and makes it very easy to have a granular adjustment, which is step 3. Implement a 200 to 300 calorie deficit under your maintenance by increasing a bit of your physical activity, whether that be your NEAT or your actual exercise training, as well as removing a few low-hanging fruit options from your diet or modifying your diet to end up in that deficit. Aiming for about a 0.5 to 1% weight loss rate per week. Again, make small adjustments only when your weight has stalled for 1 to 2 weeks. And your adjustment can be by either increasing NEAT, right? So if you're walking for 30 minutes a day, walk for 35 to 40 minutes a day, or by decreasing your caloric intake by 150 to 250 calories per day. And to make sure that you don't feel like you're just walking into an endless pit of suffering and hunger, have a stopping point. At first, you should only commit to an 8 to 10 week approach of weight loss. Then, after that 8 to 10 weeks, you increase your calories by half of the total amount that you took out for your deficit. So, if you started at maintaining 3,000 calories a day and you got down to 2,000 calories a day at the end of your cut, you're going to maintain at your new weight after those 8 to 10 weeks of fat loss at 2,500 calories a day. That is going to be your maintenance for 8 to 10 weeks before making another decision whether to continue maintaining because you're happy at where you're at or going on another fat loss phase. Finally, getting to some guidance. This is not a linear process, and it is very difficult to go through alone for the first time. There will be many peaks and many valleys. In fact, it's totally natural that there is, right? It's a learning process. You're going to figure out what your habits are, how you react, and probably even some narratives that you have around food and your beliefs around fat loss in the first place. So asking for help from people you trust, friends, family members, partners, whoever it may be, and prioritizing compromising with those people to optimize for your satiety. So meals and nutrition, getting your exercise in, getting good sleep, as well as having positive social time that boosts your general happiness and perhaps even your productivity. Finding a coach who's gone through a similar journey or has coached people with similar struggles to you is absolutely invaluable. Saving your own time by paying for someone else's time who's been through the journey and can give you all the quick tips and the decisions every single week so that when you run into a hurdle, you know exactly what to expect and what steps to take next. It's just going to save a lot of pain and suffering. But if you are committed to going at this solo and trying it on your own, there is a lot of internet guidance that I would recommend, primarily from creators who are well studied and well practiced, such as the YouTube channel Renaissance Periodization. Jeff Nifford's pretty useful. On Instagram, Devin P. Kelly is also an excellent resource, particularly in regards to mindset and strength and resistance training. All right, guys, I hope this was useful. I hope this has kind of given you the tools you need and maybe some of the beliefs that you can use to set yourself up for a successful fat loss phase. If you are interested in working with coaching or just getting an outside perspective to maybe help you set a bird's eye view for yourself going forward, reach out. I offer free consultation calls and strategy calls for anybody who is watching this presentation. And you can just DM me or email me at ckellymoves@gmail.com, and we can talk about what some of your goals are and maybe what some of your challenges are as well. All right, guys, have a good one, and I will talk to you very soon.